My dad taught me that, the difference, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call our meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing for the moment. I thought I saw Reverend Basio. Give us our invocation, please.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this nation. Your word says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And I thank you for the right to believe. I thank you for the freedom not to believe. Lord, I thank you because in making us free, you give us the ability to choose. So guide our choices today and use the leadership you've placed over us for your glory. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. Clerk, take the roll, please.
Councilwoman Gavarrecki.
Present.
Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
Councilman DeGiulio.
Here.
Pro Tem Keenan.
Present.
Mayor Mategas.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Our city administrator is unable to join us tonight, so we will go forward and we will ask the CFO if the council has questions about various matters to try and help us get through tonight's meeting. So, I'll ask
Mr. Chairman, if we could invite Mr. Kay to sit up with us, since he'll be addressing questions invariably from the audience and us. Might be easier for us to get that communicated rather than have him jump up and down.
I'd already asked him about that, and he would feel better because he's on the agenda later.
Oh,
Council.
okay, fine. Thank you very much.
So, motion for correction and approval of the agenda.
Motion.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Templin, supported by Councilwoman Gavarrecki. Any discussion or correction? Hearing none,
I have a question. I know earlier in the day, Clerk Mizzi had asked me a question. Has that been corrected?
Which one is that?
The one that you asked me about the vote,
Oh, the minutes, yes. Yep.
that has been corrected?
Yeah. Yep. Actually, that's going to be on the next agenda. Those were just going to the art tab.
Okay,
But thank you. We actually watched the video also to confirm.
all right. That's it for me.
I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Approval of the minutes for February 10th. The motion, please.
Motion.
Moved by Councilman Cisco,
Support.
supported by Mayor Pro Tem Keenan. Any discussion or corrections suggested? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The approval of the minutes for February 24th. Can I have a motion on that, please?
Motion.
Moved by Councilman DeGiulio. Do I have a second?
I'll support that.
Supported by Mayor Pro Tem Keenan. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is carried. Organizational business, I would ask for a motion to accept and file the update reports and document submissions that were provided by the city administrator to us.
Motion.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Keenan, supported by Councilman Templin. Any discussion?
Mayor, as I've said in all the meetings since January 27th, I don't think that we should approve anything that the city administrator sends to us at this point. And
That's what we're doing.
I I don't believe that we should
Okay.
submit these documents at this point.
Any other discussion?
Well, I think I tend to agree with Mr. Cisco in the sense that so much of what we receive is uncertain to us. Some of it may be straightforward, but I mean, I noticed in here that she's apparently made some appointments, hired some new people. I wasn't aware that that was going on, for example. I know that they've started like the new ordinance officer and things like this, but one would have thought we would have had some heads up on these things, even if by an email saying, hey, by the way, I'm going to hire somebody, I think he's going to be all right. I just don't know, but I don't know if there's enough in here to really object to beyond that, but I do tend to agree with your sentiment.
And I would say, though, that even though that some of this might look like it's okay, under this city administrator, I do not want to accept at this point.
Is there any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Larry's got a question.
Oh, Larry?
I just want to point out that everything here is reports from the police department, the fire department, DPS, library. It's not her reports, it's reports from our our department heads. And there's really no reason why we shouldn't be approving this stuff. The only thing here, the two items that the administrator has is that there's been a posting for the DPS director and for the human resource director. And other than that, this goes to our tab so they can move forward on what they need to do. The other item is that the move to the temporary quarters. And that's all been pretty much approved by our tab anyways. So I see no reason why we don't pass this along. It's just an accept and file.
Can we receive and accept to put on file?
Receive and file.
If receive and file? Can I make that motion?
You want to amend the word accept to receive?
Yes.
Would Mayor Pro Tem Keenan and Templin find that acceptable to change their motion to receive and file?
What is it?
To receive and file these reports rather than show an acceptance.
Whatever, I don't.
That's fine.
Templin? Okay.
That's fine.
So we've changed it to receive. Motion is to receive and file the updates, reports, and document submissions. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried, thank you. We are going to go to that public comment, and I would like to go through our rules of decorum for everyone. The individual may only speak on an issue after the individual has been recognized by the chairperson. Comments from the floor shall be made at the podium, at the front of the council table, or such other area as designated by the chairperson. Prior to an individual speaking from the floor, the individual shall identify themselves and state their address for the record. We've been accepting just the street that you're on rather than the total address. All comments shall be directed only to the chairperson. Speakers are not to address other members of the council or members of the audience. Each member of the public may speak for up to 4 minutes. All written statements should be given to the city clerk prior to the meeting so that copies may be made available to the members of the public body. No individuals shall be allowed to make any defamatory attack or invasion of another individual's personal life. There shall be no questions, comments, discussions, or attacks regarding anybody's personal life. The chairperson shall immediately rule out of order any person who brings up such issues. If the chairperson does not do so, any member of the council may call for a point of order requesting that the chairperson be ruled out of order. If the chairperson does not so rule the offending party out of order, a council member may call for an appeal of the decision. If the chairperson's decision is overturned, the offending person shall be deemed as being out of order. If the person making the comments is allowed to continue, the person who is being challenged or whom the comments are made against shall be entitled to make an immediate rebuttal statement. For purposes of these rules as they relate to elected officials or city officials, the term personal life shall refer to anything other than that which is said or done in the person's official capacity as an elected official or in the person's official city capacity. Members of the public body may question the speakers, but the members of the public body are not obligated to answer any questions or make any statements on the issue raised or discussed by the speaker. Issues may be referred to the appropriate body, department, or individual for investigation and review. No person or group shall be allowed to disrupt the meetings or proceedings. Any individual who fails to comply with these rules after having first been warned by the chairperson to cease such actions shall be ordered by the chairperson to leave and or be ejected from the meeting. So with that, citizens wish to come forward and comment or question?
My name is Robert Turner. Larry, I want to thank you for making comments about approving the city administrator's agenda.
We didn't approve.
Pardon me?
We did not approve.
Well, I'm saying, he said he would approve it. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to argue with Mike. Okay, I got two questions on the resolutions. And the number 2, in reference to replacing concrete throughout the city. I think it's been a history of poor quality. I'm not sure if this is coming here or not. You know, for example, we look at our roads deteriorating, and it's due to poor quality of work. And I'm not sure if we put any specifications in this process or not. Also, number 4, in reference to the basement flooding, maybe when it comes time to talk about the resolution, you can explain the background of that. Thank you.
Al Wojcinski, Vine Avenue. Excuse me. Couple questions through the chair. How about starting our meetings at 7 o'clock again? A lot of people can make it at 7. I've got to fight to make it at 6 right now. Also, how about going back to the old agenda where we can comment before and after? Here we just, can talk and you guys pass it and there's no discussion by the residents about it. And getting down to one of the, I think, resolution 4 or 5, how many lawsuits do we have against us? To the chair.
And on that resolution that's going to come before the council in item 4, it appears that there are at least 58, but there are class action. There are 58 individuals listed in those 2 actions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the exclusive class. But the entire class is included in the settlement that will be considered tonight. Is that a proper statement, council?
Yes.
Okay. And whosever idea it was not to have Karen Folks in her chair, thank you. I really appreciate that. And other than that, everybody have a good night.
Charles Blevin, Champaign. I'm glad to see that there's spring weather outside now. The snow is melting and everything, so spring and summer are here soon. Question, any updates on the building next door, the Thunderbolt Lanes, that was, I think, supposed to be a gun range? Since we stopped talking about that one building being City Hall, I haven't seen anything happen. It's just been an empty building like it's been for years and stuff, but I didn't know if there was any updates on that building. Next, I want to mention, if you haven't seen the yard signs, there's a PTSA craft show this Saturday at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the high school. As well, I believe, a mom-to-mom sale. And then Next, do we have any plans, because I know there's an election in May for the roads increase or decrease. Do we have a plan if it does pass, how much Allen Park is going to get from that? And if it doesn't pass, do we have a plan of fixing the roads during the summer and spring? And then lastly, I just hope everyone has a wonderful day and keep moving forward in a positive way. Thank you.
I don't see anyone coming forward, so I'll move to the,
Carl Sim, Kolb Street, Allen Park. A couple of quick things. One is, I'm sure by now everybody's seen on the news the condition of our police department. I know that we're moving over to the building next door, but we don't know when that's going to happen. We can't put a date on that, especially for the police, because of all the equipment that needs to be moved. We need to set up a jail to send prisoners to. Something has got to be done by the city, by this administration, to do the bare minimum over there to make that building more bearable for them officers to be in. I would hate to have the job they have in that building. It is absolutely disgusting. I hope everybody has seen it firsthand, because it's beyond belief over there. And I'm not saying dump money into that building, that would be stupid at this point, but something, whether we get volunteer services, whether we can spend the bare minimum to just try and clean it up for them officers, something to boost their morale and make it a little more livable in that building. Also along them guidelines, when it comes to our CERT team, I know the city's proud of our CERT team. I'm proud of it. I'm a member of it. They do a great job in the city. I know the city has some control over how they do things. Tina does a great job on our CERT. I would hope when we have our fundraisers that we see the people from this board at them fundraisers. Now, I'm not saying that you people haven't been there. I'm just saying that I hope to see all your faces at these fundraisers to make an appearance to all these people that put their free hard time into doing something good for the city. That's all I have to say tonight. Have a good evening.
thank you.
Thanks.
Trent Sims, Belfour. I was just wondering who's going to maintain the grass along E-course that was put in by,
DDA?
yeah,
I think it's part of a DDA maintenance program.
okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Kathy Adams, Colwell Street, Allen Park. With the move next door for City Hall and the police department, I hope that the council is thoroughly talking with the police department for all the modifications they need to be able to safely perform their function over there, if they should be abandoning the operation in this building completely when we move over there, because I looked at the single blueprint that's on the website, and it looked like there were bathrooms, but I couldn't really see decontamination showers. And it was a long time ago when I did regular ride-alongs with the police in Detroit when I was accepted to the academy there. And they get every manner of filth, vomit, blood on them, as well as chemicals, and drugs. They do need to have that taken into consideration. So it'd be great, if they know that you're looking at all of that. And Mr. Templin can probably attest to many more things that land on a police officer. But thank you, and I appreciate you moving this along as quickly as possible, because breathing the air over there is even worse than it is over here. So thank you.
Anyone else? I just comment on the question about at the police department. Councilwoman Gabareski has asked us to try and find some way to make that a more habitable place until we can move. So I think that is going to be investigated, and hopefully some
modest remedies will be able to be put in place. I would say, though, don't look, just when you walk out tonight, walk past the review thing, and you'll see a big change in our carpet there where our roof caved in right there as the snow melted this weekend. So the building as a whole is just coming apart. If there are no further citizens coming forward, I'll go to the consent agenda. And again, there are 8 items there. I will ask the council if they would point out any to me that they wish to pull and have dealt with individually.
Claims and accounts there, Mayor.
Mr. DiGiulio asks to pull claims and accounts. Anyone else? Anything else? We will take claims and accounts separately, and I would take a motion to approve the other 1, 2, 4, 6, 7 items, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Hayes, supported by Councilman DiGiulio. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you. Claims and accounts. Before we take questions, I would have a motion for their approval, please.
Motion.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Keenan. Do I have a support?
Support.
Supported by Councilman Templin. Mr. Giulio, your questions, please.
Okay, what's this for the Miller Law Firm? Has that got anything to do with the SEC? It's like $5,600?
Do you have any idea of that legal bill, Mr. Cady?
Mayor, off the top of my head, I do not. I can certainly look that up and get back to you on that one. There are several law firms that we're paying for different work, and I'm not sure which one he's working on.
I know they were the ones in Judge Cohen's courtroom, was Miller Law Firm.
Judge Cohen, it is the Miller Law Firm is different than Miller & Miller, and that Miller Law Firm is our SEC firm that was finishing, right?
That's what I mean, they were there, though.
Right.
They were there, so I just.
I can definitely look that up and get back to you.
The SEC investigation.
There is some final stuff going on. I know that there was a bill, I think it's in this one, for the SEC work that was done and the training and stuff like that occurred.
Thank you.
To that end, Mr. Cady, if I could have a quick follow-up. I think I noticed in looking at the budget at one time that we had a finite amount of money budgeted for legal fees. We have prosecutor, we have general counsel, but we do have any number of special legal activities, such as the SEC thing. Are you aware at this moment, and I don't expect you to have it at your fingertips, but it seems to me that we've probably well exceeded these accounts by now. Do you have any feeling about where we're at?
Overall, in the budget, we're holding our own, but you're correct, Councilman, we're going to have some budget amendments for some of these legal accounts that different departments have. The perfect example is, I believe, in the assessor's office, where we've already expended that budget for legal on the Ford case, for example, and there's a couple other in administration that'll have to be looked at.
Well, if maybe as we move forward, maybe some greater specificity. You know, my mantra about the overtime and where does that stand vis-a-vis regular hours, vis-a-vis the whole payroll for those most involved departments, and I think I know you know who I'm talking about. I hope you can come prepared in the future to maybe give us an update of where we actually stand, because I don't want to get to the end of the year like we have every other year and have to start finding money to fill in these gaps, you know.
It is my plan within the next 2 to 3 council meetings max to put together a list of all of the pertinent budget amendments we're going to need to bring that back to council. Hopefully we can adjust the current year budget to make everything right, and also look at making adjustments to the next year's budget, which was also set kind of hastily and needs some adjustments moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kaye, one last question. When you do check that out, will you see if Attorney O'Shea is involved in this payment?
I will look into that.
Thank you.
Any other questions on claims and accounts? We have the motion for approval. I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same kind. That is carried. Thank you. We're down to resolutions. The first resolution is for the Molnar roofing of the DPS and fire station roof for an amount not to exceed $129,840. I would like a motion, please.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Hayes. Do I have a support?
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman Gavarecki. Is there any discussion?
A couple questions, if anybody here is aware. I don't doubt that we bid it out properly, but roofing being what it is, I wonder if we know what type of product they're gonna be using, a vinyl roof, a tar roof. Do we have anybody here that knows that? Is this guy here the roof man? Sounds like he's gonna take a stab at it anyway.
Yeah, I think stab at it. I believe it's the tar and stone. That's what they're putting on.
Are they gonna tear the whole thing off, or are they just gonna try to flood it with tar and?
Nope, they are repairing what's rotted. The price is for the total removal of all boards if necessary, but they don't see that.
Okay, so they will be removing the obvious damaged areas and inspecting thoroughly to make sure that whatever's needed is done, because, I mean, we all know roofs, flat roofs particularly, are notorious for
Yep.
finding water from the far east corner and ending up dripping in on the northwest side or something like that, you know?
Exactly.
And water always wins, as we know. So, okay, thank you. I hope
For
it
the
works
sake
out.
of the audience, will you at least identify yourself so they know who?
Oh, I'm Terry Kerr, the interim director this time.
Terry's with our DPS department. He stepped up while we're without, and we appreciate you doing that to help us get through this transition, so thank you.
Mayor, did I miss the
I have one
license and
question.
permits? Were they,
Yes, those were in the consent.
okay.
I have one
Yep.
question.
Councilwoman
Just
Gavarecki.
for point of clarification here. The letter on the resolution here says not to exceed $129,840. And then the letter here says not to exceed $119,840. Is there a typo?
I couldn't tell you at this time.
It looks like a typo, because
I just want to make sure that it's a typo. It was the memo from you that's got 119, but I think it should have been 129.
Yes.
Okay.
But
oh, no, actually,
Or
It's not to exceed, so.
I
the
think
letter,
that,
but the memo from him says not to exceed 119,840.
but there's a 10% wood fixture
Okay.
per square foot,
All right,
which, of that, and I think that
Okay.
moves it to the higher number.
got it.
But they can't go above that without bringing it back or
Right.
doing
Okay.
something, but I think that's what happened.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure. Thank
Sure.
you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I wonder, Mr. Katie, can you talk about where that money's gonna come from, and is it, what account?
You know what?
How we're
I
gonna
think
pay
I
for it?
figured it out.
The
appears to
DPW
be a
budget
typo on
does have a
Karen's memo.
capital outlay that was approved for this purchase. It's part of the DPW budget and general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a typo on Karen's.
it is 119. You'd be approving that, it appears to be 119.
So this 129 is wrong?
Yeah, because if you go in here, the letter from the Garland Company, it's Molnar's 119,840, so it's a typo on that top sheet.
And to clarify the mayor's point, that is inclusive of any boards or anything like that?
Yeah, because the other one was 98,240. They're same company.
It's Hawkeye Tina.
Then I would say that we would change the motion to be 119,840.
I'll allow that amendment to my motion.
Ms. Gavarecki?
Yes.
All right, any further discussion?
I have a question of sorts. Is that, on some of the literature that we get through the city for maintenance items, and I've seen basically kind of like these pop-up buildings. I don't want to say they're Quonset hut type, but they're along those lines. And it looks like it's kind of like hard plastic roofing on top. And I'd like to know if we've looked into doing any of that, where you know, there would be, at some point, it looks like no repairs on any roofing. Obviously, you'd need solid ground to build on. And then the other part of that is, as we look to sell this property, not that we don't need this done, but I think there's questions as we look to sell this property. So we're fixing up property that we might be selling or moving on or trying to put somewhere else. So I just like to bring those questions and see if, has there been any thought about, you know, building a new salt dome? And the way I see it is the salt dome that we have is the old style, which is like cone shaped, whereas these other type buildings that go up fairly quick, I have no idea how much they cost at this point, but they seem a little better for the wear in the long term. There's just some
You lost
questions.
me. What are we talking about here? I'm totally lost. I'm serious. I don't mean to be disrespectful. We're talking about the roof on the fire department and the DPS over on Roosevelt.
Yes.
What are we talking about? The salt dome? I'm not sure.
Well, I was talking about the salt dome.
Oh, so you're not saying
I'm not
anything
talking
against
about
this
that
resolution?
roof. No, I'm
Okay,
talking
I
about the
wasn't
salt
sure
dome.
where you were going.
Because I thought that needed repair also. Is that true?
Okay. But we have this roofing bid in front of us. Council, do you?
Well, I'm I'm trying to get my arms around these numbers here. So if you look at a bid tabulation, Molnar is 94,890. Maybe the idea is to provide flexibility with the wood repair. It's unclear here as to what the correct amount is.
I'm seeing that further on in here now. What is this tab?
So I mean, the way this motion's crafted is an amount not to exceed, so it does provide some flexibility.
I think what would be important is to have somebody on our staff monitoring carefully the linear feet of board and plywood so that we don't get the whole bill come in at the full maximum amount. Obviously, they must have measured how many square feet it is, and that's probably, if they had to replace everything, I would assume, because it's about, what, $15,000 worth of potential cost in board replacement. So we'll just have to have somebody make sure that they verify with us how much product they actually used in the replacement of roofing material, you know, board, wood material. Otherwise, we could get a bill for the full amount and we wouldn't know. So I presume Mr. Kerr, someone like you or somebody on your staff would be monitoring that process, eh? Thanks.
You know what? I'm with you.
Further questions? I think the difference between the 94 and the 119 is potential wood replacement, would you think? Because when you go back and read the, from Garland, and I think was Garland the ones that set the specs and reviewed this, Mr. Mizzi?
It was a very detailed specs for a roof. I was pretty impressed.
And so they're saying that the max that is would include any, there are two different types of wood repairs, I think, in there.
Okay.
That's what I read. It's $4 per sheet of plywood and $2.50 for the wood.
Per linear foot.
Yeah. So that's where I thought we were at too.
Oh,
$4 a sure.
I got it. Just happens to be the.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's carried. We have the Gaglio construction bid for concrete replacement throughout the city for the year, $577,370. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman DeGiulio.
Support.
Who is the second?
Hayes.
Councilman Hayes. Is there further discussion?
Question, if we know, is this primarily sidewalk or is this streets as well as sidewalk?
No, this is for doing spot repairs for main breaks, catch basins, emergency work.
So, somebody identifies a catch basin that's sunk, it'd be that, but are there any plans to have, like, say on Champaign, there's a section of sidewalk, if that's included in these emergency kinds of repairs too?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be using the same contractor.
And a major chuck hole in the middle of one of our major roads, that would cut out a piece of concrete and replace it?
Roger.
Okay, all right.
Driveway approaches also. I see one over there on Arlington, right by the school.
If
The
the water
driveway's busted up
department,
from them.
yeah, broke it up, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Terry, isn't it true, don't they set like a price with this bid too? So, like if we decide to do other work in the city, we can piggyback off of this? Like if the
Yes.
DDA wants to do concrete work, which I don't think they have any money left to do, but if they did,
Right.
this with Buccelli sets that pricing.
Yes, it
in
does.
that. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The resolution to settle the water claims for the year 2010 in the two class action suits of Christensen and the city of versus the city of Allen Park and Malta et al. Versus the city of Allen Park. The combined total for all claims of both classes to be $134,400.
Motion.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Hayes, supported by Councilman DeGiulio.
Just one question, Mayor.
Yes.
How many homes are involved in this, the 134,000?
A minimum of 58. There are 58 signatories to the class action, but the class action after that says et al. So there could be others, we just don't know. But we know there are 58. And if you look at that, the claim would come out to be about $2,300 per home. And I think the 2009 settlements were about $2,500.
Is insurance going to pay this? Or do we have a deductible to pay or anything?
No, I believe it will come out of our water fund.
So insurance doesn't go in that
No.
area?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Now, the last time there was a settlement like this, it was an assessment. That's not the case with this one, correct?
No. Well, we have the money there. I mean,
Right.
you
No,
see in there,
I
the
understand.
council says it could
I'm
do.
not trying to make it one, don't misunderstand.
I
I'm
just thought
clarifying.
a judgment levy would not
Yeah.
sit
No, I
well,
agree.
and I asked our CFO if we had sufficient cash that we wouldn't be jeopardizing any of our expenditures in the water fund. It just seems to us that because of the small nature of this one,
Yeah.
it would be better just to take it from that fund.
No, I agree. Just for the
But
sake, for
the
the sake
council
of
will
the
have to
audience.
vote
yeah.
on that.
Right, for the sake of the audience. The last time we had the flood and we had all the lawsuits, the money was much greater. And basically what happened is the lawsuit was settled and every one of us paid a small portion of that on our taxes to refinish everybody else's basements in town. So with this one here, this will not be a levy. It's just gonna be paid out of the water fund, which is the way I'd rather it be.
And Mr. Cady would remind us that the water fund is an enterprise fund, correct? And it's not impacting on the general fund of the city, so it's not as though we're pulling money out of our scarce resources from the general fund. Is that correct, sir?
Absolutely correct, Councilman. It's an enterprise fund and such. We run it more like a business than a general fund. And there is some funds set aside already for judgment levies that I've identified on the balance sheet of the water fund. So not the whole amount will come from fund balance and water.
So there's enough money then to cover this 134? Because as I read this, it says it can be paid out of the sewer fund and assessed on the homeowners.
Yeah, as the mayor was saying, it's such a small amount. I mean, do you want to do a judgment levy for like $0.1 of a mil or something when we could just pay this out of the fund balance
Well,
of
I get
water?
that, but is it going to be paid out of water and then assessed what?
Today identified about 32,000 that was on the balance sheet from an old sewer judgment levy that was unspent. We'll use that first. Then there's $20,000 in the current year budget for sewer claims that has not been used yet. And then the remainder will come from fund balance, about 80,000, and that'll be one of the transfers that comes forward to you in the coming few months.
Should the resolution reflect that it's going to,
I don't think the payment at this point, I think the resolution is just to execute the agreement, and then we should bring it forward at some point when the CFO makes a recommendation to it. It has to be paid by August 31st, I think. So
lots of time.
there's time to do it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We have a resolution for the First Amendment of lease, and it lists really all of the people who are the owners operating under the name of Time Equities. But that's the real owners of the property next door. And so that's why you see that rather extensive list of LLCs. But it's a First Amendment to the lease, and I need a motion for that, please.
Motion for purpose of discussion.
Support.
Moved by Councilman DiGiulio, supported by Councilman Templin. Mr. DiGiulio, I'll come back to you.
This $195,144, year one, does that include the common area maintenance too and the taxes, or do we have to pay that on top of it? Does that include everything?
No. I think the $6 is the CAM charge, isn't it?
I don't know.
That's the base rent.
Base rent?
Right.
$6.
It's $16,262, and before we were told it was gonna be $15,000 a month, right? So it's gone up from that?
Well, they measured the space, both sides, and that's
So
the
it
difference
turned out to be
between.
more space?
There's 32,000 square feet of space being used rather than 30,000, is my understanding.
Well, yeah, Mr. Boomer presented us at the last meeting that he had required, or asked
They
about
were gonna
taking
go
this
look, I know.
on the second floor and adding that conference room that we renovated already
Yeah.
to the lease, which wasn't there originally, so we changed the scope of the size of the property.
Okay, number 15 here says, let's see, reasonable attorney fees and expenses. Any conversations or negotiations that we had with any other broker or agent? We haven't had any negotiations or talking even with CBRE, have we? Because I know they're handling that property. So we have not had any?
No.
So that should be in there too then, right? That we did not have any, especially with CBRE, since they're the ones that are handling that property out there.
Well, I think, though, that they went on and said tenant agrees to indemnify and hold landlord harmless if we had conversations or negotiations with any other broker or agent. So I think, you know,
But
they're just covering themselves, saying
Right.
if we did something.
But shouldn't we know that we didn't have any conversations?
Well,
with
I don't think we
CBRE?
have to make a disclosure there, to make any changes.
Okay, boss.
Let me, Mr. Chairman, as I recall, at our last work session, I don't know, what's BOMA? Is that, what is that? The BOMA study says there's this many square feet. I thought Mr. Boomer was to go back and measure the place and find out exactly what the square footage was. Do we know if he did that? Because we're relying on this, whatever the BOMA study is, I don't even know what that means. And that's the same number that was there last time, as I remember it. And we wanted to check ourselves. If it's more, we don't have to tell them. If it's less, we want to tell them, you know. But I don't know if we did that. You remember, were you there, Mr. Cady, when we talked about that?
I know that Mr. Boomer's been over the building numerous times because we have contractors starting work this week there, but to my knowledge, I don't know if he's had a chance to measure it. I can follow up with him on that tomorrow.
I just, you know, I hate to sign a lease, and if it's only 29,000, I don't know how many square feet it is.
I may suggest that maybe council approve it tentative to us confirming the square footage so that we get that in the lease the right amount.
Yeah, I mean, it may be exactly right.
Yeah.
But I think we had some questions about it. ergo our request for him to measure, and he said he had a laser measure, he was gonna do it, but so often we have these best laid schemes of mice and men don't go always the way we like, you know? So I'd like to know with certainty that he did a laser measurement and brings it back to us, and if it's more, then we don't have to change it. If it's less, then we have to change it.
Through the chair, I did assist him in that because he did take the laser. I use it for elections to measure the distance, so he did take it over to the property next door, so we were checking out distances. So he should come back to you shortly with some measurements. I know he was surprised I didn't know exactly what he was measuring for. I'd forgotten about your request, but it was a lot to do with the main lobby also, how much room was in there, so.
Yeah, I had thought it had been measured out, but I don't see that we got a note from him on that. The only other thing that I think we need to add here is there's in paragraph 11, the landlord will designate 20 parking spaces near the leased premises as exclusive parking for the tenant. And I called Time Equities in New York and said we would want to fence that, because that's where we would put the police fleet. And they did not have a problem with those 20 spaces. Obviously, the fencing is going to come at our cost, but
I thought we had discussed parking the police vehicles up on our current, we need 20 spaces just for the regular folks.
well, they have hundreds of spaces there. That isn't a problem for the public. The problem is here, but if we're going to sell any part of the 11 acres, or if we're going to build a city hall on that back 3 3/4, and we're over there, you know, at some point in the lease, you've signed the lease and you don't have the right to do something, and now you don't have a place to have a secure place for police vehicles.
So you're saying we have enough parking for the general public and the visitors and the staff. You're just concerned about the police having a spot for their vehicles, which I understand they need a spot, but I'm also concerned about the citizens that come up to pay their water bill and the staff that have to work here every day. I just want to make sure the designated 20 and the rest are just scattered to wherever they can find a spot, I guess, eh?
That's the impression I got. I had a conversation with Mr. Boomertay about this, and he said that the 20 spaces were going to be designated somewhere where Stotzenberger is, for better word. And then something with handicap, and that the police, and if they need extra parking, which they do for all their cars and stuff, that they would park on our property, on the other on our property, and then if we have to put a fence in there, that's what we would do. That the lease just is addressing the parking spaces for visitors and such to City Hall.
The mayor makes a point, if we sell that, that will no longer be an option, but I think we need to probably have Dave sketch out where these cars are gonna park on the leased property. I mean, I don't know how many spaces in total we have over there. He's gonna designate 20, and you're suggesting we got all kinds of other space, but how far away and stuff like that, I guess is the question.
Well, my statement to them is we would be putting it out at the end of the ramp, because they have to, as I understand it, they're going to have to rebuild a system for handicapped persons to enter the building that's more convenient than what it is now. And if you look at the end of the ramp as it stands now, that's about at the foremost front of their building. And if we build our 20 spaces out there, the number of spaces behind that will equal 50 or 60. And I mean, we can do a count on it, but I just think we ought to reserve the fact that we ought to be able to fence something there at a spot that we determine, and they didn't have a problem with that. And we can start out with 20 reserved somewhere, I guess, and move the 20 reserved somewhere after we look at it a month or so. But I think we need a place for the police department before year end. We can use the facility we have, But if the council moves quickly to sell any portion or to go forward with the build on the site, the police's lot will go. It will go, and it will go at the beginning of the construction. It doesn't go at the end, because that's where you would be building. So it seemed to me that it was natural to just, and they didn't have any problem if we wrote in that we could make 20 spaces secure with fencing, and we'd initial it, they'd initial it when they got the lease back.
I guess I would just say, I know we talked about that. I'm a little less worried about that. I did go to some of the other police stations in the area. None of them have fenced-in lots for their cars, and our lot is not secured. Even though it is fenced in, it's not locked at all or anything like that. So, I mean, I think it would be nice, but I don't think it really has a lot of bearing on the lease.
Well, if the council is saying that we sign it as it is, that's the way that it now reads.
Just with the caveat that if we determine there's less square footage, we reserve the right to amend that. Send them a writing and explain that they overstated the square footage. It may well not come to fore. The motion is as it's stated. Do we want an amendment to have a confirmation of the space before it's signed by, I guess it's signed by the mayor and the clerk?
You know, Mayor, you could do that anyway. You could withhold signing until you're satisfied.
Right. But I just want everybody to know that that's what we're doing, that everybody doesn't come back and say, well, the mayor and the clerk held up the lease.
Well, it sounds like there's some question. I guess the reason I say is, it sounds like there's some question as to what the 20 spots. I agree with Mr. Hayes and Mr. Temple, and I was understanding that the 20 spots that we discussed at the special meeting were for the citizens, so that they would have easy access to the building. Some of our older folks wouldn't have far to walk. So it sounds like we have some question as to what that 20 was intended for to begin with. So I mean, I'm good either way. If you want to if you want to nail them down on it, that's fine.
I have a question.
Still
Councilwoman Cameron.
We have contractors in there working now.
Yes.
Can they be in there without us signing this?
Sure.
Yes? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I was hoping the answer would be yes, because I didn't want to delay that.
Yeah. They've given us a build-out period.
Okay. I just didn't want to delay this.
We're spending our money there, and we need to have a lease in place.
I just didn't want to.
They changed their mind.
Don't want to delay this for 2 weeks if it needed to be signed.
Well, certainly, the clerk and I can hold this until we get a confirmation of the measurements by Mr. Boomer. And the 20 spaces is a question for the council. If they're not concerned about it, then there's no need to add that to the present lease before you.
I guess I was, Mr. Mayor, just to finalize my thoughts, I thought our 20 space thing was just make sure we got 20 spots close to the door so that the public and the citizens and whoever can get in. I didn't even, I mean, and you mentioned the police need to play for their cars, which is fine, but they can park anywhere along there, I suppose. They don't need to be right by the front door. I mean, maybe they'll.
Oh, no, I'm not, I'm suggesting that they're gonna be in front of the farthest part of that building, not Stautzenberger, the whole.
Oh, I see, okay.
You know, they're not gonna be over there, but they're gonna be in the Stautzenberger parking lanes. But they would be forward toward the front of the property.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And I can't see where the other people, you know, I mean, everybody that goes through and uses the common door there is going to use those handicap spaces and are going to park closer. I never counted the number of spaces, but there's a lot of spaces. I never saw the students at Stautzenberger ever come front of the building.
Yeah. I do know, like I said, I do know for fact that the discussion of the 20 spaces was for the citizens, and it was specifically because Ford now is occupying some space there, and there was some concern by one of the council members, I don't remember who it was, that they were taking up the parking that would be closest to where our entrance would be. And that was what the gist of it was, to make sure that we had 20 spaces available for the citizens, so that the Ford, because it was even talked about that, I think Mr. Katie brought it up, that they start at like 7 in the morning, and by the time we would get here, all the spots would be gone, I think, and that was what precipitated the discussion. So there's no doubt in my mind that the 20 was for citizens. It was not for police cars. But, you know, I mean, if we want to designate more for police cars and fence it in, I'm good with all that. But that was not the context of the discussion.
No, I agree with you. He wasn't willing to budge on more than 20 spaces.
Okay, I got you.
And we could probably, presumably, move some of these City of Allen Park customer parking signs right over there for our 20 spaces.
Yeah. Certainly. Any further discussion?
So the motion is to approve it pending the documentation from Mr. Boomer that the square footage is correct. Is that a true statement?
Well, if that's going to be the motion, then Councilman DiGiulio and Templin have to accept that addition. Confirmation of the space by the building department.
That's what they want.
I'll accept that.
All right.
So we're approving it on pending the confirmation of the square footage.
Assuming
Correct.
Mr. Boomer did that, just whatever
Right.
his findings are.
Yeah. With that, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Resolution to update the BSNA software with a cost not to exceed $96,435. Could I have that motion, please?
So move.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Hayes, supported by Councilwoman Gavarecki. Is there any discussion? I hear none, so I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Whoop.
Could I just, let's include our language with respect to the waiver of the competitive bidding, because there would be no economic benefit by going out for bids. This is a sole source provider.
So noted.
So that language has been added. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you very much. The sixth resolution is to appoint Robert Cady, interim city administrator, and CFO at an annual salary of $87,000.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Cisco, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Keenan. Any discussion?
I have one, Mayor. What does Mr. Katie get now for his salary?
He gets $77,000.
And when we took Mr. Boomer up to city administrator, we took him up there, we only took him up 5,000, correct?
Correct.
Is there a reason why we're going 10,000 in a city that's strapped financially?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer it. It was discussed.
Mayor Pro Tem.
We felt like, well, in Mr. Boomer's case, he's running the building department, which is a far cry different than being the CFO. Mr. Katie's going to be taking on the responsibilities of CFO and city administrator. He's going to be doing both jobs. And quite frankly, I think we felt like this was a little bit on the low side. His predecessor was making $95,000, and I think the person before that was making in the $98,000 range.
No, that was 81,000 for
He was
John,
making-
talking about John Zek?
Now, he was making 90 before he gave back 10%.
He was making 81,000 when,
He gave back 10% when we.
but he was making $81,000.
Okay,
He was making 81.
I was referring to the previous administration. I did not mean Mr. Zek.
I don't know,
forgot
but,
that, yeah.
well, he was our previous city administrator.
Yeah.
So what is Ms. Folks making?
95,
95.
For one job,
which, well, we had Mr. Boomer had 2 jobs too.
not CFO. And this is an interim basis. This is while we do the search. This is not,
Well, Mr. Boomer was in term too.
Well, another question I might have is, speaking, since you bring up these former people, I don't know if Mr. Boomer's salary ever decreased when he moved back down to his current old job, and I'd like you to research that, because these things have a tendency to just go up but never come down. It's a side matter. But I have no objection to Mr. Cady. I think it's a reasonable salary. I don't share my friend Mr. DeGiulio's concern about the amount. I think it's a reasonable amount. And in fact, it's probably even a little understated, frankly, in my view, but I'm prepared to go with it. It sounds like he's prepared to accept that, so therefore we should support that.
Any other discussion by council? I hear none. I'll ask for the vote, please. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
It's carried, but let the record show that Councilman DeGiulio has voted no. We are supposed to go to closed session. I've been looking to see council. I told them to come.
Two attorneys back there.
I said, come at 7 o'clock. I think I timed it pretty well for you, gentlemen. So we will adjourn to close.
No closing
for their other
comments?
business. If anyone wishes to comment at this time, I would accept that.
I have,
Will we be coming back?
After closed session,
Maybe, or?
possibly, yes.
oh, so are we holding our comments till then, or
You want to hold them until then?
no?
Okay, well, let's take the
Let me,
comments. Let's take the comments now.
Through the chair, that the Board of Review is here till 9. They did offer to let us use it, so I'm gonna go prep the room, let the Board of Review know.
No, you need to take the vote, or, no?
No, because this is just comments, right?
Oh, I see, I'm
I'll
sorry.
be right back, I'm just gonna let them know.
So I'll take council comments at this point.
I will.
Councilwoman Gavaricki?
Thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that CERT completed its new training course last week, Thursday, and with that completion, we have 7 new members, so I'd like to congratulate the 7 new members to the CERT program. And to remind everybody, Father Saylor Knights of Columbus is holding their all-you-can-eat Massacholi dinner this Saturday from 3 to 8. It's at Crystal Hall Banquet Facility, which is on Champaign. The cost is $10 for adults and $5 for children under 12. So it's always a good meal, and it goes to a good cause. So if you're not doing anything Saturday, come on out and enjoy Massacholi.
Councilman Cisco?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that it appears that the RTAB will be meeting Thursday morning, I believe at 10:30 a.m. here in Allen Park. And that is a special meeting where they will approve a couple of our resolutions, I believe. I think there's only one on there, but
2.
Is there 2? And one of them is to agree with our appointment of Robert Cady as the interim city administrator. And then basically at, is it 4 o'clock or 4:30, Mayor, on Thursday?
It's at 10:30 a.m.
No, the final decree.
Oh, with the approval of the RTAB at their 10:30 a.m. meeting, the final time for the employment of the present city administrator would end at 4:30, but for her duties working with the state on the bond tender and refinancing.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that even though Public Act 436 and before that Public Act 4, even though we know that's not quite a democratic way of running things, that we as a council demonstrated that as our democratic values, as we voted in the proper way to show our displeasure with the city administrator at that point, that we did things that we could have in spite of not having any control of anything. So we have demonstrated that even though you might not have control, you might have control in a certain way. But it was a hard battle to fight. So kind of like never give up the fight, never give up the battle, and know that everything that people had fought for before us still exists. Thank you.
See no one coming, I will ask to adjourn to,
One thing, Mr. Mayor, I just realized, Mr. Tobias, the new ordinance officer, he's been quite aggressive. I got a few letters from him about registering my rental property, re-registering it, which I did 2 years ago and paid the fees two years ago. So I'm happy to know that he's pursuing these things. The only trouble is there's a breakdown apparently between the building department office and his information, because I have my receipts where I paid my renewal, re-registration, inspection fees or whatever back in, I think it was either March or May of 13, and I get letters saying, please send in, please re-register, please apply for re-inspection. So I hope that we can maybe under your supervision, Mr. Cady, kind of follow up on it. I brought this up, I think 2 or 3 times in this public meeting. I would have hoped that somebody in the building department would have heard that and maybe made the effort to look into it, but maybe you can see that it happens. And then finally, I just want to make mention of the fact that the last meeting, we voted 5-2 to support the severance agreement. I don't happen to agree with it, but that's the democratic process. You don't win every vote, But I do want to correct what I think was misinformation that was provided. I think one of our members announced that there was some 11th hour quarterbacking, and I think that if it was referring to me, and I have no way of knowing, I'd like to say that my efforts and my suggestions were given along the way between January 29th through that last Thursday. And I wrote a 5-page memorandum listing 17 different, very what I considered egregious breaches of job duties that I thought would represent just cause for termination. The mayor got that. He was happy to get it, and he delivered it, I presume. I suppose my other fellows on the council did similarly. On February 16th, I got a report from the mayor to which I responded. And at that time, no dollar amount had been discussed as yet, because I asked Joe, and he said they hadn't even talked about money yet. And I said we should hold out, knowing full well we'd have to give something. I said hold out for 0 and fight it all the way. And then on February 26th, I wrote another email, which I shared with Mr. Cisco and Mr. Keenan, because they were our negotiating team, saying that we ought to tell the state that we are going to lock her out on Monday morning. So the fact that I think the comment was made that nobody ever said lock her out, well, I did indeed say that. And I did indeed say in the February 16th memo, we ought to go to court and get a declaratory judgment or a declaration from the court as to the validity of the very orders and the very approach the state was taking. So I just want to clarify that. And furthermore, and finally, it was alleged at the last meeting by the mayor that I had said I shouldn't have done that in reference to supporting the EM, which is something I have never said. I wrote the mayor and asked him to produce the video. I reviewed the videos of the last 6 meetings. I've never said anything remotely like that. And so therefore I ask, please, you don't have to like what I say or what I believe or how we differ, but let's don't change the narrative by creating words and putting them in my mouth. This is the second time that this has happened, and I just soon not have it again. We can agree to disagree. I like to be friends with everybody here, but I don't appreciate having words manufactured and placed in my mouth. So thank you very much.
Real quick, Mayor.
Councilman DiGiulio.
It bothers me that we sold that property there for $12 million. We paid $24.5 million for it, and we had more than, I think, $5 million in repairs and whatever. And now we're leasing it back for $200,000 a year. I just don't understand our reasoning that we're leasing back what we used to own, and that's bothersome to me. So All right, thanks, Mary, I just wanted to say that.
I'll,
Mayor, just real quick, just
Mayor
maybe
Pro
I
Tem.
can help Mr. DiGiulio understand our reasoning for leasing. Just for the sake of the audience, when this purchase agreement came to the city council to purchase the property next door, it had in it an agreement that we would lease property. This mayor and council immediately said that that was a non-starter for us. We wanted that agreement taken out. It was negotiated out of the purchase agreement, and we did not want to lease property over there. However, our state-produced emergency manager in the 11th hour, somewhat 11th hour quarterbacking, put the agreement back in and made that part of the agreement. That was not something that was negotiated on by this mayor and council. It was an agreement that was part of the purchase agreement for the property next door that the emergency manager agreed to and signed off on. So make no mistake, we were not given a choice in that matter. So that's not something that we did. Thanks.
Since I was called out on this, we also we had to keep the city administrator here from Mrs. Parker's order that she would stay here. And it's obvious she's not here, so that was changed. So a lot of things can be changed. You know, Mr. Keenan wants to grandstand. Go ahead.
Oh, now, wait. He stated a position.
They stated a fact. That's what I stated.
You know, let's not go there. That's beyond reasonable debate here. These are just comments. Let's vote. I'd like I think I need a roll call vote to go to closed session.
First, we can get a motion.
So moved.
Thank
Moved
you.
by Councilman Hayes.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Templin.
And this would convene into executive session for the purpose of contract staff / labor negotiations permitted by MCL 15.268C. And we'll start with Councilman DiGiulio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gavarecki.
Yes.
Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Pro Tem Keenan.
Yes.
Mayor Mategas.
Yes.
Councilman Cisco.
Yes.
And Councilman Templin.
Yes.
The yeses have it. We'll convene, and we're gonna go into the small one right outside the council chambers. The Board of Review's in the bigger one.
Thank you all for coming.
We will. And go there.
I can wear it now. I fit in it. I've had this about 10 years.
And it's a fair reading. Take an hour and 34 minutes on January 13th. Look at your reading.
Fair reading of it is what I said. All right.
Dennis, you want this water?
I'm leaving myself here.